Welcome back to my page, Dr. Okoya Ebasin. Today we are still talking about politics and we want to look at godfatherism in politics and how it can be eliminated. Now, when we talk about godfatherism in politics, most of us are conversant with the consequences of godfatherism in politics. The River State example is still very fresh in our memories. Now, why do people allow others to become godfathers to them in politics? The reason is simple. Because of the cost of electioneering in Nigeria, the cost of running an election in Nigeria, many qualified candidates cannot afford the cost involved in running an election. And that is why whenever the election season is by the corner, people are looking for sponsors, people that will help them bear the cost of sponsoring these elections so that when they win, they become loyal to them. And that is why you find in most cases, governors, presidents, and those who are high in the political field tend to sponsor people, especially governors. They use state resources to sponsor people to hold positions in the House of Assembly, in the National Assembly, both Senate and House of Reps, planting them as people who are going to be loyal to them, people that will support them when the need arises. And after sponsoring their elections, using state resources, it is expected that such people should be loyal to those who have sponsored them. That is the origin of godfatherism. And now most of the time, this sponsorship is not based on competence. It's based on loyalty. Who will be loyal? When I sponsor them, who are the people that are going to be loyal? So you find the governor sponsoring the whole members of the State House of Assembly. So whatever he does, that House of Assembly will just concur, whether they like it or not, whether it is at the interest of the state or not. All they do is that this man is their godfather, he sponsored them, he bought the tickets for them, fund the campaigns and the elections. So no matter what the governor does in that kind of a state, the tendency is that the House of Assembly will always concur, just like as we are seeing in the National Assembly in Nigeria today. So that has been the level of our political understanding in Nigeria today. And now what do we do to avoid this political godfatherism? Now, in other climes, in places like the United States, where we borrow this presidential election, this presidential system of government, you find out that in most times it is usually the public that fund elections, not individuals. Not individuals. The people donate money publicly to support campaigns. And under that kind of an environment, even somebody who do not have the resources but have the capacity can be funded to compete or to contest for elective positions and be voted into power. But that kind of crowdfunding, public funding towards elections in Nigeria is not very common. Whenever you want to contest election in Nigeria, you will understand that most of the times you look for people who have the resources to sponsor you. Ordinary individuals will not support. Most of the time they will look at you that you should bring the money to enable them do what they are supposed to do. And I think that is where we are getting it wrong. From where this presidential system of government is borrowed, you found out that people, whenever it is time for elections, even the ordinary man can come out for election as far as you are competent. People will donate. Imagine a situation where you have supporters, about 1 million supporters. And if this 1 million supporters, everybody decide to give 1,000, you find out that you have already 1 billion naira to your campaigns. But that pattern of funding election is not rooted in our democracy in Nigeria. And I think it is time for us to begin to look at that option, so that people who do not have the resources but are competent can also contest elections and win. So that the tendency of using state resources to sponsor a group, entire members of the House of Assembly who are going to just be sitting down there as stooge to pass any bill that they brought to them, which are not most at times not in the interest of the public, should stop. Because these things are really bringing our democracy, making our democracy a mockery. And that is why we begin to there is need for us to begin to look at the options of public funding of elections. Let not just one man be a man that will bring all the money to sponsor everybody, and everybody has to be loyal to him. The consequences are very obvious, and I think it is a time for a paradigm shift, a time for people to begin to look at it that this pattern is not really good for our democracy. So what other alternatives do we have? Whenever elections are coming, let it be that everybody donates. Even the political parties are facing the same problem. Only one man will be there to bring out all the money to fund the political parties. And whenever any decision is to be taken, if he says no, every other person has to bow, whether the decisions are good for the party or not. Because he has been the one funding the party, so whatever he says is final. Now, to avoid such situations, let members of the party contribute to fund the parties. That is the way it is done in other democracies. People donate money. If you are a member of a party, you should be willing to contribute towards the upkeep of that party. You should be willing to contribute for elections in that party, so that the public should gather and raise money for people who want to contest election, instead of depending on one particular man to bring all the money, and whatever he says becomes final. And the worst is that most of these people are not even using their own personal resources. They are using state resources to fund and sponsor people that will just be there as stooges, yesers to them, and they become lords with the state resources. I think there is a need for a paradigm shift in this direction. So when looking at analyzing our political terrain, so far so good, I think there is need for us to see how we can prevent or eliminate this godfatherism. And the only way to eliminate it is to remove the funding from the hands of particular individuals, and to make sure that everybody in Nigeria should understand that if he wants good election, if he wants good representation, he should be able to contribute a little. If it is 1,000, you too, you bring 1,000, everybody brings 1,000, they pull it together, they will have enough money to sponsor candidates in various offices when elections are during the times of election. So sitting down to wait for one man to fund all elections again, I think the time is over, because the consequences of godfatherism are so obvious that there is need for us to see how this pattern and how this pattern can be eliminated or reduced to the barest minimum. And the only way to do it is to support by funding elections and making sure that competent people are voted into power to represent us in whatever level in our democracy, both in the state assembly, national assembly, and other positions.